Obviously, excited, for our guys to have earned this opportunity. The last couple weeks, the work rest balance has been certainly more on the rest side. Just try to get guys as healthy as we can, so that everyone who's going to be with the team, hopefully can go at full capacity. So, gotten good work. A couple extra bonus days last week. This week started getting into game planning. We're going to practice again tonight and then tomorrow morning before we take off. But most of the work and the planning stuff is done, as far as all that goes. And once you get there, then it's kind of getting it dialed in to win a game. And for us, the last 3 years we've come up short in bowl games, and it's a taste that we desperately want to get out of our mouths. We didn't do all this work and come this far, just to get there. So, our guys are really intent on going out there and finding a way to win this game. And, I expect them to play really well and play really hard and, try to get one more for the Cajuns this week.
So what does the situation in the offensive line look like?
Yeah, it's pretty thin. Ryder Bentley starts instead of Bryant. Obviously, Bryant decided not to play in this game. So that's where we're at.
Tell us about him. I mean, we've seen his name as a potential backup here and there, but talk about who he is and how has he progressed.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good young player, a guy that we're really excited about. He's been getting reps kind of all the way through going, preparing himself to go play in this game. I expect that he'll go out there and go play well. He's a good athlete. He's tall, long, still not probably quite, as far developed physically as you want to be with a young O-lineman. He's a multi-sport athlete out of high school, through for track and field, was really explosive in that, really explosive player. He just gets an opportunity before he's, before, we all expected. Balin Williams, a true freshman, will also play a little bit. Really athletic, young kid who's come a long way this year. Someone we're really excited about moving forward. But the reality is that that's probably the six that you feel like, you can go out there and are ready to go play and you think you can go win with. So that'll pretty much be it. It was nice, obviously, having a couple weeks off. I think if we'd have ended up playing that championship game, we would have been without a few pretty key players that would have been a problem. So, sometimes those things happen for a reason. But it feel good about everybody being able to go this week.
How cool is it that you got a little bit of time off, and then also you're going to get a shot in the arm in your defense with Tyrese Skipper being able to play in the bowl game?
Yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for Commissioner Gill for reconsidering his suspension. I reached out to him personally, and I sent him an email. He returned with a phone call, asked about what Skip was doing, about how he handled the suspension. He'd seen the public apology that he did that was very, very well written and very heartfelt. What I would say this to everybody, Skip has handled that situation as well as you possibly could. He did not. He hasn't missed one thing, hasn't been late for one thing. He's been at practice every day. The workouts, he's been up in Ms. D's office making sure he's finishing his schoolwork. He's already graduated. He's done everything the way that you want a guy to do. He got Scout Team Player of the Week last week because he went on Scout Team and whatever it took to help our team win. So I'm very grateful. And, if there's anyone who deserves another chance, the kid for 6 years has represented himself, represent our university and the Sun Belt Conference subsequently, in an exemplary manner. We all make mistakes, and like I said, I think to be judged on our worst moments, I don't think any of us want to be judged on that. So I'm very grateful. Skip has taken full responsibility. He's been a model teammate leader. He was voted team captain almost unanimously by the entire team. So he's always meant a lot to this team. So to have him back is something I'm happy for him. He gets one more with the Cajuns.
What's the scouting report looking like for Delaware so far?
They've won a bunch of close games. That league and the Conference USA is very competitive. It's back and forth. It seems like everybody kind of beats somebody else by a couple points, in there. So, they've beaten some really good teams this year. They've lost some tough games, but it's a good football team. They're a little unique, and they're going to throw it a little bit more a lot more than what we've seen this year, which is cool. It's always fun to play something a little bit different. So obviously we need a big day from our defensive line and the edge players in the pass rush. On the back end, we got to play with really good eye discipline. Last time we played against Monroe, we did not do a very good job of that and got burnt on some balls down the field that should have never happened. So it's an opportunity to try to make that right. Defensively, they're a little unique. They're in that 3 safety structure. They've got 3 good D linemen that they play with. Their linebackers kind of all play on a string. They're good active players, and they get their safeties involved in the run game. So, it's a little bit of a challenge. I'd say particularly for us, where we're thinned out pretty good on the O-line with the way that they play. It's a team you'd love to be able to, line up and try to run the ball a little bit, just because there are by nature some lighter boxes. But, we're going to have to, we have to be able to find a way to run the ball. But, certainly we're going to have to find some throw game as well, which is hard to do because there's a lot of people in these throw windows and things like that. So it's a well-coached football team. Coach Carlin on our team worked with their head coach for a few years at Sam Houston State. Has really high praise for him, and I can see it. They play disciplined football. They do a really good job. They play complementary football, and it's a well-coached football team that, for us where we are, it's going to be, we're going to have to scratch and claw, try to find a way to get this 5th one in a row.
How much momentum do you guys have going into this game? You guys have won the past 4 games so far, and now you're going to face a team, 6-6, just like you guys. How much momentum do you guys have going into this bowl game?
Well, the momentum kind of breeds confidence a little bit, right? That's the thing is, we kind of, despite, just kind of the way things have happened this year, we're playing our best football in the back half of the year, which is what you want to do. It's all about timing in some of these things. You want to play your best ball at the end of the year. A couple of years ago, we had lost 4 of our last 6 going into the bowl game, and you go into it and you're not very confident. You don't have a lot of momentum. You're kind of hoping that you're going to find a way to win instead of knowing that you will. And I think right now our kids, they totally believe they're going to find a way to win. No matter how the game goes, if you got to outscore them or if you got to play, or you got to scratch out a couple points to win, our guys believe that they can find a way to do it. And that's confidence is one of those things. It's when you don't have it, no matter how good you are, it's really hard to win. And when you have it, really, no matter how limited you might be, you always got a chance. And our team right now has a lot of confidence, and we have enough we have enough tools right here to go out there and go find a way to win this game, and that's what we need to go do. So we got to build off the momentum and confidence, but every game's unique, every game's different. We've won some where we jumped out in front and won. We've won some where we've fallen behind early and had to come back and win. So I think all those things that all plays into confidence moving forward. And that's what, we do have a team that's confident. We just got to go finish the preparation process here so we can go out there and go play well.
And what's the message you're going to tell your players? You say you're going to have more practice before you guys head off to Alabama.
Well, we just got to go finish. Like I said in the opening statement, we didn't get to this point just to get to a bowl game. Every banner that we have in that indoor, every one you win says champions on top of it. And that's what we want. For 3 years, you come up short. And, I explained to them how it works. At the end of the game, there's going to be a team that's going to be out there on the field and on the stage and holding up a trophy and standing in the confetti. And there's going to be a team that's back in the locker room talking about, about next year. So, we want to be the ones holding the trophy and standing in the confetti. And that's, we've missed out on that too many times here recently.
The last game you played, you ended up having to play 2 quarterbacks, and it worked. Do you envision both quarterbacks playing, and do you know for sure right now who's starting?
We anticipate Lunch starting. Obviously, right now feel really confident that he'll be able to go. Haven't really gotten that far down the road yet. Could certainly see getting Walker in there a little bit, especially if Lunch is a little bit limited. But I'm not sure yet kind of where we are there.
Being that you haven't played Delaware before, is there any team that maybe you have played that plays comparatively to them that when you practice you can kind of compare with?
Not really this year, honestly. Defensively, the structure is very unique. We've played some 3 safety structured teams, but like in Troy and things like that, but they based out of a 4-man front, which was pretty unique. The way they play some of their techniques up front are a little bit unique from what we've played. And then offensively, like I said, we really, in Texas State, people talk about they run the ball first. run the ball at a really impressive rate. So, you know, it used to be back in the day, right? You'd play Arkansas State. They would throw it, 40, 50 times a game. Texas State, when Coach Spav was there, they would throw it a whole bunch. You had a handful of teams in the league. I mean, Troy for a while there, they were throwing it every snap. The league is kind of a little bit different. I mean, everyone kind of tries to set up the pass game with the run. These guys are comfortable dropping back and throwing it, and they do a good job of it. So it's truthfully, it's just a little bit unique from probably anyone we've played this year.
The passing game, though, what is unique about it compared to other teams that have thrown the ball?
Well, I mean, I think it's not just, a lot of the teams that we've played, it's run shots and things like that. These guys are ball control passing too. I mean, they'll push it down the field like anybody, but, they've got a handful of receivers that have, a bunch of catches on the year. Their 2 running backs have 50 catches between them combined. Their tight end has a lot of pass game production. So, it's ball control passing, and the quarterback, he stands in there and he puts the ball where it needs to go. So it's just that it's not so much, a lot of teams we're playing, it's RPO throws, or it's play action shots, or it's nakeds and things like that. I mean, these guys are, it's quick game. It's regular drop back throw game, which, truthfully in college football, you don't get as much of it as people probably think. So it's just the frequency in which they'll throw it and the frequency in which it'll just be, straight pass set and drop back is a little bit different.
So this is about Brent and Courtland making tackles in open field.
Yeah, not just them. I mean, certainly, yeah, it's about tackling well in the open field. It's about, when we need to be on top of the coverage, it means we need to be on top of the dang coverage. And it's about vice tackling too. You're going to have, when you play zone defense and things like that, you're going to have in and out tackles. We got to keep our leverage, and we got to be physical tacklers. But that always helps when you affect the passer. When you can get a pass rush and you can make him uncomfortable in the pocket, that helps, right? Coverage and rush work together. So, it's all 3 levels of the defense, really need to be on the same page. At linebacker, we've got to do a good job dropping in our zones. Got to make sure we do a good job matching routes. And certainly, yeah, you always got to get them on the ground, because they're going to get you in space a little bit.
What about the line of scrimmage battle to be able to get a pass rush?
Well,
they have a big offensive line. They do a good job in the pass pro stuff. They do it a lot. I do think we have guys that can match up well, and win one-on-ones, inside and outside. We need to do it. I don't know that we've gotten probably as many sacks as probably would have anticipated maybe this year. Some of that is maybe, the teams that you play that are not really dropping back and throwing it. And some of it's maybe, just not getting there. But certainly it'd be a good day for our guys to get uncorked and be able to get some pressure on him, even not sacks, but make him uncomfortable where he's got to get the ball out of his hand faster than he wants to.
So obviously Ryder's new, but how do you feel about the rest of the offensive line right now? Even when you have guys who have played some games now, even though you weren't counting on them, that have some experience. So how do you feel about the rest of where you are?
I think those guys have played. They've given us everything they got, is what I would tell you. And they've played really well in spots. I think Matt Broussard has played really well for us. Jackson, Caden Morrow, they're battling through some things they've been battling through all year as far as injuries go, and they're still playing well. Martinez, I think, the Monroe game wasn't his best game. Right before that against Arkansas State when he came in, I thought he played great. Played really, really well. So the first start is always, it's always something that you kind of worry about the nerves and all that stuff that go into it. So hopefully, expect him to settle down and go play really well, because he has. And then Ryder and Balin, we just they've been taking a lot of reps, but none of them are in the game. So, we're going to try to play both those guys, obviously a lot. And I expect them to go out there and go compete and play well. They'll make mistakes, but we'll. We have a group of kids that they're giving us everything they got, and they're playing a lot of snaps. And, some of these guys, like Jax that you were planning on limiting, at the beginning of the year with how many snaps he was going to play, that's going out the window. And he's certainly given everything he's got for this team.
Jacksonville State 2 years ago in a very similar situation with Delaware. They played pretty inspired football. Different style, but what did y'all learn in that game that maybe like this team's going to be excited to play in this game? They're going to be highly motivated.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's their first one. I mean, that's the, we've talked about it a little bit. You have to kind of understand what they have on the line and what they're playing for. And, I mean, against Jacksonville State, played really well on defense that day, gave us a chance to, win the game, get to overtime and come up short, miss a field goal. I mean, none of them have been easy this year, and it's not going to be easy. We have to embrace. I said this, 5 or 6 weeks ago. This is the way we're going to have to win. And, they're a good football team. And, yeah, they're going to be excited to play. I mean, hell, everyone ought to be excited to play, to get an opportunity to play in a bowl game. But, it's not going to be easy. We're going to have to embrace that. And we're going, like I said, no matter how the game starts and the momentum swings in there, we just got to stay the course and keep chipping away at it and try to find a way to, make some plays in critical situations, which we've done the last 4 weeks. We've had guys all over the place that have stepped up and made plays where, earlier in the year we were just kind of coming up short on some of those. So we need to continue to do that. And, if you make them, you probably win. If you come up short in some of these critical plays, well, then, you probably come up short on the scoreboard.
Coach, since it was just announced, can you talk about your excitement to head west, take on USC and the Trojans?
Oh, I mean, I think it's a really cool opportunity. The Coliseum is like, if you're a college football fan, that's one of those historic places that's a really cool opportunity, for our players and everything. And, we're a lifetime away from that, but I think it's a really cool opportunity and something that, certainly our guys will be excited about. It's a unique trip. We don't head out, west very often. So, it'll be a unique trip. It'll be really cool. But certainly it's a hell of a football team too that you're going to play. So, we'll have we'll have a lot of time to get ready for that one, and we'll do the best we can to go out there and go give them hell on the West Coast.
With Skip back and Cody was suspended and he's back. Is Jalen healthier? The point is, are you actually more equipped back there because of everything that you went through to play better back there than you've been all?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think our safety play has continued to elevate a little bit. You had to, right? I mean, you had Lake Bates and Colin Jacob that were playing well in the middle of the year. Colin gets hurt. Lake keeps playing. Jalen was hurt. He was out. Cody had to come in there and start playing and played well. You got a lot of guys who've played quite a bit. So, having Skip and Cody and JC, Jalen played really well last week in the game, which was good. He's finally back to himself a little bit. Lake has played really well for us. Stephen Rennell played against Arkansas State and played really well. He actually had an injury during the week before Monroe that we kind of kept him out a little bit. It's a minor thing that he's good now. So, I mean, all those guys having that experience is really good. Elam, he was out early. He's back in there. So, I mean, when you go through challenges like that, in the moment, it's really difficult. In the long run, when you come through it, you end up a whole lot better off. And the same will be true for us on offense. Once we get into spring and once we get through this season, all these guys who've been forced into action really before they were ready, this is going to be valuable experience that, I mean, is going to make us a whole lot better as a team. So it's like anything, I mean, you go through difficult things and sometimes you don't see how you're going to make it out of it. And then once you do, it changes you, right? And it changes who you are, and it changes the resolve that you have, and you become, a better person because you've been through hard things and challenges. And, today, we talked about, growth doesn't come from perfection. It comes through persistence. And that's the only way you grow is when you have to persist and you have to be resilient in the face of adversity. And that's why I told you this a while back. That's why I'm so proud of this group. At 2-6, and you're sitting there, and I mean, hell, we ain't had much go right for us now. It would have been real easy to kind of fold it up and say, well, it's just not our year. And they refused to do that. And I'm happy for them that it worked out, where we get an opportunity to go and play a bowl game, get an opportunity to try to win 5 in a row to finish the season, and build momentum for all of our guys that are coming back next year. So, I mean, going through that was terrible in the moment, right? And at the time, I mean, you sit there and you don't know if you got enough, don't know if you can figure it out. But here you are, and now you're better off for it.
Coach, what was the mental shift for you personally in the beginning of the season? And like you said, the persistence, the consistency all the way through to now playing a bowl game. What was the mental shift that maybe changed in you personally that you saw in your players?
Well, obviously, I think for us offensively, going into the season, and I kind of talked about this, especially when we struggled early, we were throwing the ball terribly, and that was not expected. We expected that. I thought that was going to be a really big part of what we were. When your starting quarterback gets hurt in week 1 and you don't get a chance to work through some of those things, right? And then on the O-line, you have guys that are in and out of the lineup week after week. So just everything was just kind of just all off kilter a little bit. Like nothing was running smoothly. And, we had to find a way to manufacture some offense because there's a couple weeks there we played terribly on offense. I mean, scored very few points. I mean, just played bad football. And so as an offensive staff, we had to sit there and say, all right, well, like these are the pieces that we've got. We've got to figure out a way to create some offense with these guys and put them in position to have success. And our staff did a really good job of that. The players that stepped in there in those moments stepped in and really owned the moment, right, and took advantage of what they had. For me personally, it was week to week just keeping our focus on what's in front of us. When you're sitting there at 2-6 and you're looking at having to win 4 in a row, it's hard to do 4 in a row in this league because, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, year after year, we've had games where we've played teams that ended up 2-10. We finished 13-1 and we win by a point. Last year, we dropped in a division game, in a game that we really felt like we should have won. We're playing really good. There's just so many things in this league that happen. And I think if you start worrying too much about what's in front of you, you lose sight. I mean, every day that I came in here, instead of getting too far ahead, it was truthfully just what do we have to do today to be productive? Like, what do we have to do today to take a step towards being able to win on Saturday? And, you had to quit thinking about, well, man, we're down to like this is where we're at. Like if we lose anybody else, it's gonna, this is it truthfully became every week was. I mean, it's almost win at all costs with what you got that week and figure it out, and then the next week you got to do the same thing. So it was it was challenging for sure. But what I would say is that within the walls of our building, our staff and our players and everyone that was involved in it never lost faith. They never lost sight of what we were doing. And, as challenging as it's been a really fun year because when you have a bunch of people that have the same goals and the same vision, it's amazing how much more pleasant even a bad situation can be. And 2-6 was about as bad as it's been. And, every day you came in here, though, you had kids that were willing to work. They were excited about working. You had a staff that was excited about putting a plan together. No one's complaining or pointing fingers whenever there was plenty of opportunity to do that. So as challenging as it was, I think when we just went into it and we just said, look, this week is the playoff mindset, and if we don't win this week, then everything we want is out the window. It just turned into the work that was in front of us. And I'm grateful, for our staff and for our players because, I don't know if a whole lot of people believed that this, that we could pull this off. And like I said, now the challenge is it wasn't just to get here, let's just go finish this thing, and put an exclamation point on a pretty significant back half of the season.